Hey, gang. Welcome to your Thursday edition of News, Games, and More. I'm Michael Swaim. I am here with my pals Ryan McCaffrey, Jeffrey Vega, and David Griffin. Welcome all. And yeah, as Ryan said right before we started, I'm loving our color combination and how it all comes together in Jeffrey's frame. Look at that. What are the odds? Not planned, people.
We're
Um,
Voltron Lions. I think that makes me Pidge.
you know the names of the characters, though. That's more than I can
The
say.
the Netflix show's so good. If you're not like
Oh,
I'm a fan of it from the '80s because I'm that old, but the new one, the recent one on Netflix is so good. Like good as an adult, and if for I watched it with my daughter who was I guess I don't know 6 or 7 at the time too. Great show, highly recommended.
wow. All right. I'll have to check it out. That actually is a perfect segue into something I wanted to steal from Damon, who hosts the Monday show, and sort of tweak because he asked, "What you playing?" I'm going to broaden it. Ryan, you can get a second entry if you'd like. What have you been playing or watching lately that you want to shout out?
I can't tell you yet due to silly embargo things. I don't want to be that guy that's like, I can't tell you what I'm playing, but I can't tell you what I'm playing yet. But
Gotcha.
I just finished watching, I'm a little late to the party on this, but I watched High Score, the 6-part documentary on Netflix about sort of some various key points in the video games industry leading up to, it only goes up through Doom in 1993
Mhm.
with id Software, John Romero, John Carmack, which has me optimistic that maybe there'll be a season 2 at some point that covers things from 1993 forward because you've got, there's so much more material. There's Sony and their whole partnership with Nintendo that didn't happen and then that led
Right.
to the PlayStation and Microsoft coming in with Xbox. There's a lot of ground left to cover, but the 6 parts that are there in the season that's up is really good. The production value is great. I love that it's narrated by Charles Martinet, who, if you don't know, is the voice of Mario. So to actually
Mhm.
just have him narrate this is awesome. Check it out.
Yeah, he does the whole thing in the high pitched, it was a time of fraught with issues. No. Yeah, it's really
Ah,
good.
boom.
And we got console wars coming up as well. It's cool. It's kind of a golden era for docs about video games. They're coming for our turf, frankly. But yeah, I enjoyed it very much as well. David Griffin, what are you watching or playing?
Watching, I just finished Emily in Paris on Netflix, which is this really cute, romantic comedy. It's cute. I mean, it's a rom com. Been watching with my fiance. We've been enjoying it together. It's a really easy binge. It's like 10 episodes, 30 minutes a piece. Really easy to get through. On the gaming front, I've been playing FIFA 20. I realized that I'm behind, but I saw it on Origin for $5. So I went and ahead
Ooh.
and picked that one up. I know we had the FIFA 21. Of course, you can go check out the review on IGN.com right now for that. But I'm really enjoying FIFA playing as Chelsea. That's my team. Sorry. And Also, of course, I'm all in on The Boys season 2. It's been an awesome season so far. The finale comes on tonight, I guess, or tomorrow, early tomorrow morning and into tomorrow. So definitely look out for The Boys season 2 finale.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm right in the middle of that. How about you, Jeffrey Vega?
Guys, everyone, Jeffrey. Here I am, as Michael Swing said. Definitely not my first time on this. I am currently playing Fortnite, which I know is a popular game that nobody hates and nobody will make comments about it. I actually never played Fortnite in its heyday, and I know it's cool to hate it, but as some people might know, there is a Marvel season going on right now, and so currently I'm grinding to get to Iron Man, which back then seeing Iron Man in Fortnite feels like a clickbait video, but I'm just every day just excited to just log in and do challenges, and I don't care what anybody says. The live chat is already canceling me, but you know what? I'm a big fan. They're not canceling me. As far as watching stuff, we haven't started yet, but we're very excited, my roommates and I, to start The Good Place season 4 that just hit on Netflix because we actually watched 1 through 3 for the first time when quarantine started. So it feels really weird it feels so long ago back in March. And it's like, oh, we started and finished The Good Place in quarantine when it wasn't even on Netflix. So we're very excited to finish that show.
Yeah, that's a good way to demarcate time when you watch The Good Place. That should be our new unit. But let's get into the news. First and foremost, our headline story: Benedict Cumberbatch officially joining the cast of Spider-Man 3 today. For a little context, of course, this comes after finding out that Jamie Foxx's Electro will be featured in Spider-Man as well. And there was another thing. Yes, the of course, Doctor Strange 2 and Multiverse of Madness coming as well, directed by Sam Raimi, of course, opening the door for potential interconnected universes, multiverses, the kind of thing they explore regularly in the comics. But a lot of people out there floating that as maybe the way this all hangs together. Of course, we had Endgame with some references to multiple dimensions and Doctor Strange itself. I'm going to go to David Griffin first to make sense of it all as our entertainment expert. David, what do you think about this news? Excited?
I think it's really exciting. I mean, both Marvel and DC have their own version of, a multiverse. Of course, we got Into the Spider-Verse, from Sony, which opened that up. And of course, Marvel's toyed with that too. We know Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness is happening. So I think it's just cool that they're going to start pulling in all these characters. Now, I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago and just mentioning that I hope Marvel and Sony don't use this, as too much of a crutch, just be like, hey, let's just bring back all these old characters, without having a good reason to. But I trust Marvel, and I even trust Marvel's collaboration with Sony. They've done a good job so far with this new iteration of Spider-Man and even the animated movie. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do. I think it's going to be really interesting. And I'm just really excited to see Andrew Garfield again. I hope we see Andrew Garfield again. I'm just hoping that. I don't have any proof, but it's just I love Andrew Garfield. I think he was actually an underrated Spider-Man. I liked his performance. I think he's a good actor. I'd like to see him again. I don't know if he'll take over or anything. I don't see that happening, but even just to get a glimpse of him again would be really cool.
Given that it is Sam Raimi, if they go the multiverse route, like what do you think the odds are we'll get a bit where Tom Holland opens a door and Toby Maguire is there? Like that has to happen, right? And everyone will lose their
Definitely.
yeah, I think
Definitely.
so. Anyway, Jeffrey, thoughts on this news? Are you a Doctor Strange fan?
Yes, I love Doctor Strange. It's when I watched all of them. I watched all the MCU movies for the first time a couple of years ago, mostly for the first time. Like I saw Iron Man and blah blah, but I skipped once like Doctor Strange, and man, I loved it. I truly Doctor Strange was Doctor Strange and Ant-Man and Spider-Man were all sort of like this like surprising like, oh, this is really good. I like, why haven't we had a sequel until now? Obviously, they had a whole plan for the Infinity Saga, but for people who know me, my favorite movie of all time, just is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, as David mentioned, the Sony movie. It is, and it was IGN's movie of the year that year that it came out. It is the best movie in the world, and I think that while there's, like I guess worry of like, oh, maybe they're trying to capitalize on it. I think that given like if it's in the hands of the right people, I think a live action Spider-Verse is something that everyone's going to love. And I remember when the animated Spider-Verse was happening, there was talk that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire were going to make a cameo in it, but the producers were worried that it was going to be confusing, that like, oh, there's Spider-Verse and then there's the live action. And so I think that we're like now all past that, like, okay, now this movie is like super mainstream, won Academy Award, well loved everywhere. We can move forward, and especially in the world that we are in now where their movies don't exist anymore, it's going to be such an exciting thing to come back to this explosive new universe where maybe people have had more time to think about in quarantine of like, all right, how can we retool this and make it for the new world?
Yeah, Spider-Verse definitely top 5 movies of all time for me as well. Truly incredible. And I remember when there was some messaging around, don't worry about it, they're never going to connect. I think they are, though. And something interesting, the article at IGN.com pointed out was that it sort of fulfills or it allows us to continue the father figure role that Tony Stark, of course, played by Robert Downey Jr., filled throughout. And it can sort of shift from Iron Man to Doctor Strange because Benedict Cumberbatch has a begrudging, but you've seen sort of the groundwork being laid of taking an interest in Peter Parker. So we could very well see him sort of shift over and slot into that story role, which just it's interesting to think about how far out they obviously have these things planned. Ryan, thoughts on the news?
Yeah, actually, I was trying to think here. David, do you know when Marvel and Sony made that deal to keep Tom Holland and Spider-Man in the MCU? what do you remember how long it was for? Is it like 3 movies or something?
Well, it was, but then because remember they it broke down. The deal broke down for a time. Remember, we are all worried, we're like, oh
Right.
no, Spider-Man's out, and then
Yeah.
they made the deal again. They made a better deal. I think it was one of those things where they just restructured it. So, it was more beneficial for both Sony and Disney in this case. So I believe it's just for the three, I believe.
Okay.
And I
Yeah, that's
think
what I thought. So
after that, yeah,
that's
I
and
think
that's
after that
kind
it's
of
done.
where my brain goes to is like, okay, well, how, are we just gonna do we just need to kind of enjoy this ride for 3 movies and then and then it's kind of all gonna be over or what? But for the time being, yeah, I mean it's definitely neat to see this and I'm all for, I mean, why not? They're comic book movies. Let's have fun with them. I mean, I'm psyched to see like when I was a kid, Batman 1989 was my favorite movie, like by a mile. It was just not even close. That was like the movie for me as a kid. And now, okay, great. Like Keaton's going to come back in the Flash, and even if it's only a couple scenes, that's awesome. So yes, let's have fun with these. I am all for it.
Yeah, it also feels like with Guardians of the Galaxy, they kind of proved that fans today are ready for the really weird, meta, layered, crazy Marvel stuff that we all grew up loving. I think there was a time, maybe 20 years ago where it would have been too out there or it would have confused people, but they've steadily fed us more and more story threads and we're all keeping up just fine. We all know the MCU like the back of our hands, and I think they should just keep taking weird swings. I'm excited for WandaVision. Yeah, good stuff. Benedict Cumberbatch, always a delight. Ladies and gentlemen, Benedict Cumberbatch. No, moving on to our next story. That would be quite a coup. And he'd have to be at my home, which would be odd. But anyway, I want to talk about GameStop announcing a multi-year partnership with Microsoft. And as our article rightly points out, no, this does not mean that GameStops are turning into Xbox stores. Not really in any way, shape, or form. Although, no harm, no foul. If you didn't know exactly what it meant, we have posted an explainer. I have a quote here I just want to read from the original press release. Jim Bell, GameStop's chief financial officer, commented, quote, "We believe Microsoft's integrated retail technology platform will enable the continued development of our frictionless omni-channel digital environment." Ryan, you're our Microsoft guy. What's going on?
GameStop's going out of business in the next 5 years, and this is just their way of trying to get Microsoft attached to their name temporarily to try and make them look good. I mean, this is a nothing burger of a story. They're using like Microsoft Teams as part of their tools and some other Microsoft enterprise software. Who cares?
And they're going to have Microsoft Surface or whatever at all their
So,
stores.
so what? It
Do
doesn't matter to the average gamer or average shopper. This is
No,
just a weird
definitely not.
story.
I think the one thing that matters is the note that there's no sort of proprietary Xbox Series S and X like favoritism. GameStop will remain, you get all your games there. It's just some like behind the scenes
Yeah,
business
they're
shenanigans.
not going to stop selling PS5s.
Right. But do you think this could at all be part of a broader pivot to digital that they're doing along with Microsoft, or
The
any last ditch thing to save the store? You think they're gone
No
in
way.
5 years? That's
It's
your
just there's no way this company, and I don't say this like with glee, and I
No,
don't want to
no, of
see,
course
but
not.
yeah, like it's just the business model. The entire gaming industry is going digital, and nothing that GameStop has done yet has shown that they're going to survive that transition. I mean, they've had leadership changes, they've had stores closed, they've had stores like kind of refocus and like, well, let's be like the place where gamers hang out, let's have toys, let's do.
Mhm.
Nothing's been working. So I mean, hey, I'd love to see them stick around, but I just don't see it. I mean, like PC games, that's the future that's waiting for the rest of the industry. PC gaming went 99% digital 10 years ago. And it's just a matter of time before consoles and the rest of the gaming industry follows. And there doesn't seem, based on the constant quarterly losses that GameStop posts, there doesn't seem to be a brick and mortar future for gaming.
I agree. I'm just sad about it.
Well,
Uh,
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
just
David.
I'm maybe getting a little nostalgic here, but I don't know if you guys think about back in the day. I just remember, you'd go, like, I remember when Halo 2 came out. I was in
Midnight
Michigan. I think I
launch.
was in, yeah, I was in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and not a huge city, but even there at the GameSpot, there was the DJ was there, the local radio station, the cops were there. I mean, nothing bad happened, but there was just like a lot of people there. There was food there, and you had really that sense of community, which was just really cool. I mean, I know you can get that online. You can talk to hundreds of people, thousands of people online, but there was something about being there
Yeah.
in the moment that night, the energy, like going in, picking up your copy, all the hype behind it, waiting to get home. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the convenience of just sitting at home and downloading something, but it was just really cool, like back then, just to be around all those people that were excited just to have this one game in their hands. I don't know. I'm going to miss those days for sure.
Yeah, no, and for console launches too. That was a thing at consoles. Like, yes, you're lining up, you're waiting to get that new machine. So, yeah, there's definitely it's not a cause for celebration that this transition is happening because yeah, a lot will be lost. You make a good point, David.
I have GameFly is still an active service that exists. Just saying.
I will
Physically mailing you discs.
I just will say to David's point that one of my favorite memories are of like when I was a kid. My dad would take me to Blockbuster and we would go rent. My first game was Mario Kart 64. We rented that, and you could rent consoles back in the day. You could take a Nintendo 64 home, and it was like $25, which when you're a kid, $25 is like $100. And so it was such an exciting feeling. And then even now to today, like I remember going to for when the Super Smash Brothers Brawl came out for Nintendo Wii. We all lined up. There was a tournament, and whoever won the tournament got the game for free. Like those things that like I'm still trying to hold on even today in 2020 because I pre-ordered the physical disc version of the PS5. I'm like, okay, I'm supporting them still making boxes and discs, and I will buy every collector's edition that I can afford so that digital is not the future, even though it is. So I'm just stuck in the past.
Jeffrey, don't buy collector's editions, buddy. Those are just buy 3 more games instead of spending $250 on a game with a plastic statue in it.
You let him waste his money however he wants, Ryan. Do you own a Polaroid camera, Jeffrey Vega?
I actually have one that's still sealed, like in its like little plastic wrapper, because it's like, oh no, you're nodding your head no, but hear me out, Michael Swaim. It is a waterproof camera that my mom bought so that we could go, like back when we could travel in old world, we would go snorkeling and take pictures underwater. You can't do that with an iPhone.
Cool.
Well, you can do that with an iPhone now, but
yes, you can. You absolutely can. There's something about the sound of vinyl. Let's move on. Speaking of things that will last until the end of time, the Sega Dreamcast, everyone. Sega's next micro console, of course, in the wake of the mini Game Gear that was just so adorable, and I really wanted to like eat a handful of them. There is reason to believe that Sega's next micro console could be a Dreamcast Mini, although, of course, that is not confirmed. As reported by Silicon Era, the quote is, I think for the next one, we may go with a concept close to the Mega Drive Mini. If I have to say some names, it could be an SG-1000 Mini or a Dreamcast Mini. And I'm personally hoping for the Dreamcast Mini. How about you guys? I'm going to start with Jeffrey. Let's go reverse order. Keep you on your toes.
There's nothing more that I want than another way to be able to play Crazy Taxi than a Dreamcast Mini. I don't know. I didn't buy into the praise of buying mini versions of consoles. I will say I got swept up in the SNES. I definitely got that. But then I was just like the PlayStation 1, and then the price like slashed in half. I'm like, okay, it's not just me. We're not that excited about it. But I will say I will probably get an N64 one if Nintendo doesn't make an online service for that. I will definitely get a Mini 64, considering I do have an N64 in my apartment right now that works perfectly. All the controllers are good. But having that nostalgia factor, I mean, yeah, like if they're gonna make a game that I can play Sonic Adventure 2 on, or sorry, make a console that I can get Sonic Adventure 2 on, sure. I could be swayed. I mean, I buy physical junk, as you guys razzed me earlier for.
I mean, if you're buying physical copies, yeah, certainly. And I wonder if it comes with a well, maybe someone else will ask that question. David Griffin, did you have a Dreamcast or do you have any Dreamcast experience?
I did not. Yeah, I never had one. I there was like a big gap in between Sega
Mhm.
and sorry if my time's off here. Sega and the first Xbox where I was just on PC. I didn't have any consoles at all. I never had an original PlayStation, and so I missed a bunch of those consoles in there. I never had a Dreamcast, and I don't know. I feel like again, I have my Switch in my drawer back here that I haven't even, you know, played since I bought it. So I'm afraid that if I got another console, it would just collect dust. So I don't think I'm going to be getting this.
As you can probably tell by my slightly off kilter vibe, I was a hardcore Sega kid, so I had a Dreamcast on launch day. Am I going to strike out here? Ryan, did you have a Dreamcast?
I was in the same boat as David, PC gaming in that era. So yeah, no, I did not lose myself to hundreds of hours of Virtua Tennis, but the Dreamcast is always spoken well of. I mean, the original Xbox was kind of like the unofficial Dreamcast too.
Yeah.
So they had Jet Set Radio, they had Shenmue 2, they had Panzer Dragoon. So there were a lot of those favorites ended up coming over to the original Xbox. But yeah, I did not have a Dreamcast, and I just think this story, the thing I can't help but laugh a little bit about is that I love that we're just completely glossing over the Saturn because the entire world glossed over the Sega Saturn. No Saturn Mini, huh? No love for that one? Of course not. Why would nobody's going to buy that?
A
But
lot of folks. Well, I mean, you'd be surprised. There's at least like half a dozen people in the comments who, if they're true to the word, would buy one.
there are several of
Nightmares
us.
scenario says if Sega misses out on the Saturn Mini and jumps straight to the Dreamcast, it doesn't have a clue. So
There
there's
you
some
go.
ride or die Saturn folks out
There you
there
go.
for
I
you.
mean, hey, and I sit here hypocritically. I'm all for. I mean, I think I love that these sort of, and not that the Dreamcast was obscure, it was not, but I love that a lot of these old classic consoles are getting these mini releases. I mean, I also got swept up in the hype for the NES Classic, the Super Nintendo Classic, and then the other one, the only other one I bought, which I'm even though I haven't touched it in a while, I'm thrilled to have it. I have the TurboGrafx 16 mini because I did have a TurboGrafx as a kid, and I have a lot of fond memories of that. So yeah, the more of these mini consoles, why not? Like, there's no harm in them existing for those of us out there who treasure those memories.
Absolutely. I am one of those, and I do look forward to it. What I really wonder is if there will be a tiny little VMU that you can play
Oh yeah,
microscopic games on
got to do it.
to keep your other games updated. Yeah, Shenmue, Soul Reaver, Legacy of Kain. What was the Blue Stinger? I think was a Dreamcast exclusive game that never went anywhere after that. But I have plenty of fond Dreamcast memories. I'm sure other folks do as well. Let's move on
Worry
to our
about
next.
I real quick,
Yes.
I would worry about Crazy Taxi. Of course, the first thing that I think about when I think of Crazy Taxi is The Offspring. Yeah, 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 yeah. And I'm
Definitely.
thinking subsequent re-releases of Crazy Taxi, I think for licensing, that song hasn't been in there. So hopefully they would do the due diligence of relicensing that track if indeed a Dreamcast Mini happens, because of course it would have to have Crazy Taxi on it. So
Yeah.
hopefully it would have that song on it as well.
And you nailed it. That is the Superman track is
Yes.
the Tony Hawk has. Yeah, that's the track. You got to have that track. But okay. As we navigate through the news together, some days the day is fraught with just monumental, epic announcements. And I feel like we have some nothing burgers here in the middle. And I thank Ryan for introducing that phrase into the vocabulary and pointing it out.
Not mine. I
So
didn't. Don't thank me.
So there's a bit this I consider this a nothing burger story, but we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that Final Fantasy 16 has apparently completed basic development. Now the thing is, basic development is not a specific term, right? So am I wrong in thinking that could mean any wide range of things, right, Ryan?
I wonder if that's just a Japanese term for pre-production. Before you, like, you've mapped out the whole game, but you haven't built it yet. I don't know. Like all of IGN, we were slacking about this today. Like, none of us have ever heard this term before. But yeah, that's that's the only thing that makes sense in my head, is maybe it's just whether it's a sort of a translation thing, or maybe they just mean pre-production. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that is a great point. It was translated by Gamatsu, but according to the story from GameStop, a Square Enix recruitment page has been posted that says, quote, "We've already completed basic development and scenario production," which to me implies storyline type things are complete, but okay, back to the quote, "and are continuing to create large-scale resources and build boss our various development tools." Our commenter, BugZap89, says, "Sit tight another 2 years minimum."
Oh, more than
Uh,
that.
so, I, yeah, yeah. I think he was trying to be hyperbolically comedic, but actually could have gone farther. Uh, so, yeah, let me see. Let's go to Jeffrey and David. Any thoughts on this before we move on, guys?
I
I thought so.
David, you want to take
No
this
one
one?
knows what basic development is.
The last final, I played Final Fantasy X on PlayStation 2. I think that
Yeah,
was the last one. That was the last one I
featuring
played.
the voice of Bender from Futurama. That was a good
Yeah.
one.
Oh, Bender. So that
Ooh,
means
John
that's
DiMaggio.
yeah, John
John
DiMaggio. Yeah,
DiMaggio.
excellent voice for me. Yeah,
Oh,
that was
come
my
on.
last run with Final Fantasy. But I know, I mean, again, from the entertainment side, I can speak, yeah, pre-production and those type of terms are just meaning like we have our outline, we have our locations where we want to film picked out, we have a general idea of what we want to do. Now the next step is executing what we want to do. So yeah, especially in the video game world, yeah, they're definitely a ways out.
Do you think
Execution is, as I understand it, the hard part. Yeah.
do you think that they're doing this just to stay in the news, I guess? Because like this makes me think of that announcement during one of the video game live streams this summer of when they announced Skate, and they're like, Skate is back, and then nothing else, like no like artwork, like not even artwork. We had to post, we had nothing to share for artwork, and so it's like, do they say basic development? So it's just like, hey, we are working on it, which, you know, we all love transparency. The fans and whatever love that. But like, it just seems like kind of like a, okay, well, doesn't mean anything for me.
Well, they more than love it, right? Like, I think companies do that a lot, and that's very spot on. But I would argue in this case, all they were trying to do probably is hire people. It's our avid interest in finding out that ends up, we often scan job postings, or like by we I mean the broader gaming community or Redditors, etc. Dig through job postings and extrapolate things, and it's our duty to report on that. But it's not our duty to dwell on it, especially when the game in all likelihood isn't coming out for years to come. Although I do agree with commenter Tater1905, who says, "Looking forward to a new fantasy setting for FF. Trailer looked awesome." I agree with that sentiment. All right. A story that I do consider quite substantive, especially because it's about a very dense man. Rambo is coming to Mortal Kombat 11 along with Melina and Rain, I believe. That's correct according to my notes, in the next combat pack. And in addition to that, we now know that MK11 is coming to PS5 and the Series X and S. Any big MK11 fans? I enjoy MK11 very much, but you guys are the panel.
I like
I'm
to watch the
scared.
fatalities.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as a member on the social team, everyone on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, they love the fatalities montage. But I don't know, it's so violent to the point where sometimes people slack us and they're like, "Is this okay to just post on Instagram? Like, do we need a warning before?" And like, maybe.
Y'all sound like the moms from the 80s, but it's so violent. I love it. David, any Mortal Kombat experience under your belt?
Not since back in the day when you're doing the old blood code on Sega
Sure.
Genesis. I think it was like ABAC ABB if I remember correctly. I don't know if that was still the blood code, but yeah, I mean
That's the one.
I'm kind of old school with
Oh, we
that.
need our live fact checker to
I
check
know, I don't know if
you
that's
on
right. That
that.
could be way off. Could be way. That
If
was
that's
way back in
right,
the
I will
day.
be really impressed.
I love the original film. I know it's a little bit corny, it's a little dated, but I saw that so many times in the theater. So I'm definitely a Mortal Kombat franchise fan, and like everybody else, like Vega, I just enjoy watching the fatalities. It's cool.
All right, well, we've all at least seen Rambo, so let's talk about Rambo a little bit. Although I find it my duty to dispense information because if I were an MK11 fan, I would want to know the following. So let me also say this: Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate will comprise the base game, the Aftermath expansion, and Combat Packs 1 and 2, and that's coming to PS5, PS4, Xbox Series XS, and One, the Nintendo Switch, PC, and Stadia. So running the entirety of the field. There is also, Jeffrey Vega, I'm looking at you, a physical collector's edition available, which will contain all of the above, plus a Sub-Zero mask bust, exclusive steel case, commemorative magnetic coin, authenticity plate, and exclusive DLC.
Don't do it, Jeffrey. Don't do it, buddy.
Okay, all right. Here's
Be
what's gonna
okay.
happen. I'm gonna get my bank on the horn, and I'm gonna put it on speaker, and they're gonna say how much money I have in the account. No, I love the opportunity. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't get this because I'm not a huge MK fan, but I'm a huge sucker for steel books. I mean, not to shout out any specific retailers that sell it, but there is just one retailer that sells it, and I always get the steelbook for they give it to you in addition to the normal game. So I love having like my copy of Marvel's Avengers for PS4. It comes in the blue case, and then they handed me an empty steelbook disc, and I'm like, this is garbage. I don't need, but I collect it and I love it. And yeah, that's fun. Coins, steel cases, exclusive DLC. That's not physical, but it's fun to mention.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm very excited to see Rambo and Melina and Rain. Frankly, I'm just excited. Every combat pack I think's been really satisfying. I'm wondering if he'll control a bit like Aaron Black since they're both gun based, but we'll see. I'm hoping not. I'm hoping he's got his own sort of strategic thing going on. Also interesting to note, as someone pointed out to me today, I believe this is correct. The Turtles, Ninja Turtles, were in what's it called? Not Infamous. Injustice, is that it? I think that's, yeah, Injustice, the DC one. And then now we've had RoboCop, we've had Terminator, we've had Rambo. So there's definitely a sort of WB thing going on. We could theoretically have Neo someday. It's just interesting to see the Mortal Kombat universe really explode and expand. And obviously, NetherRealm Studios not opposed to like tying famous characters in. So I don't think Mortal Kombat matter. Like, I don't think it matters that it makes sense and stay grounded. So I'm like all for it. The same as with Smash Brothers. I want to see all kinds of weird characters in the mix. Um, the bosses from Horrible Bosses. I'm just looking at film franchises.
Well, you're I can't believe you're leaving out what is to me the most interesting part of this. They got Sylvester Stallone to sign on and voice
God.
Rambo for this.
I didn't. Thank you.
How great
Yeah,
is that?
right.
Like I wish I could have listened in on that conversation because like I mean, I don't know if Sylvester Stallone's a gamer. He's what probably 70-year-old guy at this point,
Right.
but like, hey, we'd like you to play Rambo again, but not live action in a video game. Oh, okay. Well, what is it? A Rambo video game? Not exactly. It turns out Rambo's one-on-one fighting to the death with a bunch of ninjas and monsters and some other celebrity
And
guests
some gods.
yeah,
Yeah.
like and Sly's like, oh, that sounds good. Cool, let's do it. And it's like how I love that he said yes to this. It's so great.
You
I
probably
just- I
had to
love
call
the-
Arnold.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, what is this? I love the
I know,
idea of
yeah.
someone. I love the idea of someone explaining what DLC is to Sylvester Stallone. All right, so it's downloadable content, right? But hear me out. You need a base game to play it, and then you got to pay for. So it's not a full game. And okay, you hung up. Sylvester hung up. Okay.
Yeah, a man named Sylvester. It's probably not that up to date on the cutting edge technology.
Can we just get the whole Stallone-averse into Mortal Kombat? Like, you
I
know,
was just about to
Tango and Rocky and Cobra and his character from Stop or My Mom Will Shoot and just can we and the Demolition Man. Can we just have Sylvester Stallone be like his own expansion pack?
Let's just do
Who wouldn't buy that?
Expendables, the video game. This is like a separate project.
But
yeah.
all Sylvester Stallone.
All Stallone.
No other
voicing
action
everyone.
heroes, just
Well,
him.
but then everyone sounds like old Stallone, which I will say you can already notice. It's like, because this is based on First Blood Rambo, so it's very young looking Stallone. that sounds like old man Stallone. It's an interesting mismatch. Schwarzenegger also did voice the Terminator, so they're getting these big names. I hope that will continue. It's a lot of fun. St. Patrick says, "Where's Bruce Campbell?" I agree.
Oh
Another
yeah.
commenter's asking for Chuck Norris and various answers that you would predict. But as Rare Owns says, finally we get Melina back. MK11's the gift that keeps on giving. We should note for true Mortal Kombat fans out there, they're getting Melina and Rain, which is really cool as these combat packs continue to sort of reinsert characters that we sort of missed from previous games and just want spruced up and included in the roster. Rambo's been, I said that, but I didn't say Rain will have his classic moveset reimagined and uses a Qatar and can open a rift to a previously unknown watery realm. So for all we know, this could all tie into the Benedict Cumberbatch Spider-Verse thing. And all movies are one movie and all games are backstory. If anything was going to do it, it would be the Mortal Kombat lore because it's nuts. All right. Oh, that was going to be all I had, but I forgot. There's breaking news that I'm going to ask David Griffin about. Soul. This was about 10 minutes before we started rolling. Soul, the Disney Pixar movie, is to premiere on Disney Plus, now officially going to skip a theatrical release. David Griffin, do we know much more than that, or is that the gist?
I think that's all I read earlier when the news broke. It was still a developing story at the time. I assume it's going to follow the same pattern that Disney Plus has been following with Mulan. This is probably going to be a premium tier product, meaning it's going to cost, I would say, somewhere around $29.99, $30. But if they do the same thing they did with Mulan, one, you're going to be able to watch it, as many times as you want. You're going to own it as long as you have a Disney Plus membership. And then, like Mulan, which is going to come out for free if you have Disney Plus subscription in December, I would imagine that Soul is also going to be available, 3 or 4 months down the road to stream, as long as without having to pay the premium tier price. So again, it's going to go to people like, is it worth it for you? If you have a family of 4, if it's a group of you, then you have some people over. Well, during this time, have people over, whatever, and pitch in. Is it one of those kind of situations? Unless you just really want to see this new Pixar movie, or you could wait a few months and watch it for your normal $6.99 a month or whatever you're paying for your monthly subscription. So I think it's a good idea. I wish more studios, because of what's going on right now, people are still hesitant to go to the movies. And even if you do go, theaters aren't at maximum capacity. So I love that they offer the opportunity for people to watch it at home. I mean, Trolls did really well. It made about $100 million, the Trolls World Tour. So, I mean, I realize with some of these big budget films like James Bond and Wonder Woman,
$100 million is not breaking even in some
it's
cases.
not, no, in
Yeah.
some cases, exactly. So with a James Bond movie, that's not breaking even. They need to make, 300-400 million for that. So I get it, but I'm glad that Disney Plus is making this move.
Yeah, I check Amazon Prime marquee theater at home or whatever it's called, the purple bordered one, every night, and I'm just like, when is Tenet gonna give? Just give, Tenet. Like, just come to you have to eventually. Jeffrey Vega, I believe you had an interest in this, or am I incorrect? You may have just brought it to my
No, no,
attention.
no. I am a very big theater fan. I definitely do not recommend going to the theaters at this time. I mean, they're not even open in California. But that being said, I was nervous about this news, and of course, it happened right before going to do this show for the first time. But I knew it was going to happen eventually. I always thought it was weird that Pixar was going to release 2 movies in one year, because as far as I know, that's never happened before. Disney Animation and Pixar have definitely released, like they did Moana and Coco in the same year, I believe. But having Onward and then Soul come out like months within each other, I always thought was bizarre. But I was just looking into it, and it looks like the Soul, which is coming out on Christmas Day, December 25th. It doesn't look like it's going to have the premium price. It looks like they
nice.
didn't include any wording that would suggest otherwise, as opposed to Mulan. It's like, oh, premiere access or whatever they call it. So that's going to be like a really fun thing where, like, I'm very devastated that we're not going to see Soul in theaters, because I am a huge, it's about a man who's like a band teacher. I grew up in like the marching band world in like high school, and I love Jamie Foxx and Tina Fey. And then Trent Reznor, August Ross, they're doing the score for this movie. Like, I could not wait to go to see the movie. It was maybe go see it in advance for, you know, like IGN stuff. And the fact that it's now going to streaming is very sad. However, I will say this, is that because it's coming out on Christmas Day, it's going to be the only thing people talk about, which that is great, obviously, for Disney, Pixar, for Disney in general, because obviously, you know, Disney's hurting so bad this year. Everyone is, of course, but in terms of entertainment. And I'm excited for everyone because I saw Onward right before the pandemic hit, and that was like the first movie to like get cut short of its release. And everyone was like, "Oh, did you see it?" Like everyone's like, "Oh, what was the last movie you saw in theaters?" And it was Onward. And then it came out on Disney Plus in the summer, and it was so fun to see everyone on Twitter talking about the movie again. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, yes, it was so good!" Like I like Disney Plus, they do like live tweets with the cast, and so I'm excited to see how Disney kind of takes this like movie, which was more excited for that than Onward, and see them kind of release it in this like new world, because obviously we've had VODs, we've had straight to stuff. So I'm hoping that Disney Pixar goes all out for this movie, despite being just digital only.
I just hope we don't get used to it, so to speak, because I know, like, I'm worried about the inertia of it. It feels like even after, knock on wood, a time where COVID becomes not an issue, we'll still be a little wary. It's always a pain to get out of the house. It's still easier to like watch Premiere Access than go to the theater, but going to the theater is such a great experience. I also am really like nervous about the livelihood of theaters. Ryan, you cried doom about GameStop. Do you think theaters will remain with us? Do you think people will always want to go to a big room and watch a
Yeah,
giant
that
screen?
that seems like a thing that's not gonna. I mean, because I think theaters will be back. Because you've got the communal aspect.
Oh, is that just me?
Oh no, Ryan.
No, it cut out for me too.
Ryan froze.
We've lost Ryan. Well,
No.
Ryan is running to the movie theater
And
right
it's like,
now.
yes, we have big HD TVs in our homes, but not movie. Am I back?
you are back, sir.
No? Hey, all right. I'm still here.
You were calling
Uh,
theaters the cathedral of film and communal experience, something along
I
those
think
lines.
I think theaters will survive. I think there's still going to be a desire for both the industry and the public. I think there's a mutual desire there to continue movie going. I just want to say thanks to Disney, and because they're making the things that I would pay to see on Disney Plus free, because I would have paid for Hamilton, I would pay for Soul, I probably would have paid for Onward, but those are all just thrown on there as part of my $7 a month subscription. And then Mulan, which I just wasn't super personally interested in. Cool, I'm happy to just not pay for that, and then I'll wait till what'd you guys say, later December or something, where it's
December,
going to
yeah.
just
Mhm.
become part of the thing. So yeah, I guess there's a lot of learning left to do for all these companies to figure out. All right, well, what do we charge for, and how much do we charge, and whatnot. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Disney Plus can be fairly criticized for having, a pretty kind of a lack of content overall in its first year, but Mandalorian and Onward going, straight in, and Hamilton, which I'd never seen and it was amazing. And now this will be Pixar's Soul. So, at least maybe not a huge quantity of content in Disney Plus's first year, but pretty good quality.
Yeah, they're getting there. I felt like the party didn't really start until Mandalorian showed up.
Yeah.
But they're getting there. They're getting there. All right.
There's no.
Yeah,
Oh,
go
sorry.
ahead.
No,
No,
I was gonna just pitch it. No,
we
no,
have
no,
till
no.
5 if we want, please.
I was just. I know we've talked about this in previous NG Plus episodes, but there's no world that Disney will release. I know Disney has postponed Black Widow to May next year, which is exactly a year after it was supposed to come out. But there's no way that they would release this on Disney Plus, right? What
Black
do you guys
Widow?
think? Yeah.
They charge
If
for it.
No.
we're still in quarantine next May, would they?
Possibly.
Because
Yeah. Next
just
May.
because
Yeah.
like I wonder if Soul is the reason why it's coming out on streaming is because there was already a Pixar movie in theaters and this was already done for a while, and that it's just one of those things. It's like, all right, just get it out there, kind of like what Michael was saying about Tenet. But yeah, I'm so bummed about it, but like I'm very excited that like it's going to be super accessible for people who would never even go to the theaters normally.
Well, Jeffrey, you made a good point about the release date being Christmas Day, specifically with Soul, because you got to figure in this quarantined year that we're in, a lot of holiday gifts. A lot of people will probably get and receive digital membership codes for for Disney Plus, Netflix, etc. This holiday that can just be emailed over, and so a lot of people probably will get subscriptions for Christmas, and they'll put in their code and have their subscription, and then they'll fire that up for the first time on whatever screen they're going to watch on and be like, oh wow, a brand new Pixar film, that's awesome, and kind of like make a really good first impression for the service. So Soul being just there as part of the regular monthly service could be more of a long-term play for them, of just trying to establish that goodwill and trust with their new consumers that come in at Christmas.
Yeah, and I've heard, and I think this speaks to the Trolls World Tour thing. If, especially if you happen to have kids that are currently the perfect age to be Disneyfied, they're going to want to watch these movies over and over and over. So, in a way, it serves its function to your family more than going to the theater would, where you'd have to buy the ticket and make the trip every time. Still, I enjoy going to the movies, and I hope we can soon. Last movie I saw in theaters was Bloodshot. Anyone else remember the last movie they saw in theaters?
I saw I had AMC A list, which lets you go three
Mhm.
times a week. So I truly saw like 12. I saw 12 movies a month. Sorry, and
Nice.
it was Onward for me. I went to go see it again. Uh, to see it in Dolby because I had seen it at an advanced screening. Not to brag
Mhm.
or anything, but yeah, it was. We have no screenings now, so jokes on me. But yeah, Onward was my last one, and I really loved Onward. I cried. It passed the Pixar cry test for me, so excited for Soul to do that.
Most of them do, I find. They usually do. David, do you remember the last thing you saw in theaters?
Don't jump at me, but I saw Tenant actually.
Okay.
I
No,
know.
Ooh.
fair enough.
Oh, shame, shame. No, the theaters in Orange County are open. So I went to Orange County
Yeah.
and saw Tenant. We wear your mask, your distance. It's, I mean, I'm not saying, not recommending saying people need to go do that, but I felt comfortable doing that, and I felt
Yeah,
comfortable
for
while I saw
sure.
the
Christopher
movie. I felt
Nolan
safe.
thanks you for your
Yes.
service.
I saw Tom Cruise do it in the UK, so I said, well, if he made it, then maybe it's okay for me. No, I really enjoyed it. It was weird though, sitting there for 2.5 hours with my mask on, just kind of. And the thing is, it was crazy. It was so quiet in the theater because most people
Mhm.
the whole time, unless they were taking a drink or a little popcorn, had their masks on. So it was one of the quietest movies I'd ever been to because everybody was just kind of like this, and you couldn't even hear breathing. It was
Down in their
crazy.
chair, like,
Yeah,
"Who
I mean,
don't
so
bother
like,
me." Yeah.
because usually when you're at a movie, hear people go that whole clearing their throat thing, and people will cough. None of that. It was just
Oh, I've
dead
noticed
silent.
people
So
are
yeah,
now they don't want the social stigma
no.
of
If you
coughing
cough or
anymore.
clear your throat, everybody's gonna, kind of look at you. So
Yeah.
I'm glad I saw it on the big screen. But again, I know everybody feels different. What's going on right now. I know it's a sensitive
Yeah.
subject, but yeah, I saw Tenant. It was a very interesting movie going experience. But that's probably going to be the only movie that I'm gonna see
That's it
all
for a
year in the
little
theater.
while. May
That's probably it. Yeah,
Dune, we'll
that's it.
see if Dune gets you, maybe.
Yeah. Oh no, Dune
Yeah.
was they were all pushed. Everything, all Warner Brothers
Oh, yeah, that's
pushed
right.
Dune, and yeah, they pushed it. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
but
think
to Jeffrey's point, who
Yeah.
knows?
was
Right.
Tenant was David was Tenant a movie that you think would have been a theater of loud reactions? With no spoilers, of course.
I mean, it's a good point, but even during like the comedic moments, maybe that's maybe more the movie's fault, but I didn't really even hear a lot of laughter. It was just very quiet. It was weird. I think everybody was just kind of still. Like there weren't even really people moving in their seats. Like usually you can just feel movement around you at the movie theater. Maybe because we were so spread out. It's only about half capacity, if that. So it was, like I said, it's just a kind of a weird, almost like an eerie. It was weird because you're watching the movie, but in the back of your mind, you're thinking about the world and what's going on right now, and you're looking around you, and I think everybody else is doing the same thing. So it's kind of an odd movie going experience. But it's a good point, Jeffrey. I don't maybe the movie didn't warrant the kind of reaction that if you went to see a comedy or something like that. But yeah, there just wasn't a lot of reaction either way.
I'm still trying to decide if I want to go to a drive-in theater to see it, because I'm obviously I wanted to see it in IMAX, but obviously that's not going to happen anytime soon. And so I'm just wondering if that's like a movie that I could go to a drive-in and see through my washed windshield.
Yeah, definitely support your local drive-ins. I'm all for
Yeah.
that for sure. Yeah. Okay. Now, I think we're done with the news, but I want to thank everyone so much for sitting and chatting with me. Ryan, David, Jeffrey. Jeffrey, congrats on your first NG Plus appearance. Very well played, friend. And right here on this same YouTube channel in about 10 minutes exactly, Max Scoville and Brian Altano will bring you Up at Noon, live at 5. It doesn't have to make sense. Don't worry about it. They'll be covering the aforementioned Game Gear Micro, Scooby-Doo Playmobil toys, I guess, and a really, really big Gundam. So stick around for Up at Noon at 5 and check back tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific for your Friday edition of News, Games, and More. We'll see you then.